The marketing gods have spoken. Small scoped games are officially in for 2026, and we want to help you with making the best possible small scoped game.
Are we the marketing gods or who?
No, Chris Zukowski.
Oh, okay.
And he made an article as well about like the great conjunction and how small scoped games and like what are the best genres basically for like quick development, the market wants it and all of that. And he did reference us as well.
Oh yeah, but
so
because Bite Me is the trendsetter, you know, we're leading the pack.
I'm not
we're
sure
the change
about,
makers.
I'm not sure about that one, but I do want to talk about small scoped games and what are the best genres, as far as you can say that, to make them in, of course, our tier listing format. We've got a tier list here. We have 10 different genres that we're going to be giving our...
They've waited a long time for another tier list.
Our moderately uneducated opinion on, I would say.
Yeah, it's just an opinion. Don't take it too serious. Do with it whatever you will. Take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. I don't care. This is just an opinion.
This is just rage bait in video form, basically. Yeah. We're going to do our best. So we're going to talk about each genre, and then we're going to put it on our tier list. S means that it's the best possible genre, and you should immediately drop everything you're working on and start making this. F tier means that probably you should not even consider, like, if you wanted to make this style of game, go and get a different style of idea. Now, before we dive in immediately, what are some of the criteria we have for a small scoped game? I think it's a game that you can make in less than 6 months, I would say. Anything between like 1 to 6 months, basically. As a 1 or 2 person development team, I would consider a small scoped game. We're looking at like pure development time. If it's a game that you work on full time for 6 months, I still see it as a small scoped game. If you only have 10 hours a week on it, it also takes like 6 months. It's a small scope game. So it depends on how much time you have, basically. Don't take one of these small scope genres and then like be like, oh, but I only have 5 hours a week, so I'm gonna work 3 years on it and like kind of pull it out like that.
It defeats the purpose.
It defeats the purpose. It's a game that with the scope that you have, you can reasonably do this and like the time and resource you have available in less than 6 months, basically. Okay. Not every genre may be as feasible with those criteria, but that's just what I want to talk about. Small scope game means something that you can make pretty quickly. And I think another thing that I just want to say again, small scope game doesn't mean you just do like less of everything. Like you don't make a small scoped Skyrim, but I think it's better to say that you take less of the mechanics, but you go just as deep into like one mechanic or deeper. So instead of making a shitty small version of Skyrim, where like you basically only have like very basics of like everything, you instead focus on only the alchemy skill of Skyrim, basically, and make a game around that. So with that out of the way, let's go into the first genre that we have on our tier list, and that is short incremental idler games such as Tower Wizard, Click and Conquer. You see these blowing up. It's 2 to 6 hour long like experiences, basically, where you have these very quick loops. Also shout out to Outhold, which is also done by some Bite Me viewers. These very quick loops, the very good dopamine feed, and you just see number go up to a certain degree.
Yeah, what I really like about this genre is, for example, if Bite Me didn't exist and I had to make a game, this would be the kind of games I would look at, because
these are programmer games.
These are programmer games. And of course you can make a distinction by making it really art focused, because
they're mostly
but they're mostly simple,
I
right?
think so. I think
there is a market for a like visual.
Yeah, incremental games have existed for a long time. Nothing new there. Like, it's not just also cookie clicker, but also like number go up idle and things like that, which have, I would say, pretty bad UIs to a certain degree, or like aesthetics, for lack of a better word. Whereas now this new wave of like, for example, your Tower Wizard, your Outhold and whatever, they do really focus on, okay, you have deep skill trees and deep progression and all of that, but they also look visually interesting. Most of the time through 2D art, I would say. But I think these
they are simple,
short-scoped ones, what they lack in maybe the ultimate depth, they make up for it in visual appeal, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's what I mean with like, this is a genre where I think you have some leeway, because you can either go really art-focused, I would say, but that's not completely true, of course, because you have a lot of mechanics, but like, you can try to make a distinction there, or you can go like for very, very basic art, like the game about feeding a black hole is super simple art. It's like the only thing that was done is basically a lot of game feel on basic shapes. That's why I like this genre, because you have a lot of leeway in how you want to execute on it, while in other genres you often are like put in a box where you have to you don't have as much leeway, basically.
So what do you think are the biggest traps with this genre right now? If someone looks at this and they're like, okay, it seems to be pretty happy,
Yeah, I think it's a genre that probably is harder to market, because I don't know if do a lot of people.
It's a pretty clear flow for marketing. Step 1, you put a web build up on itch. Then step 2, you share it on r/incremental games. Then you get a demo out on Steam once you have enough feedback from the itch build, basically. Then you join like a festival, Next Fest or something, and then you release. Those are like the main beats, I would say. Where itch.io does take a very big part in incremental games, and then incremental DB and the r/incremental games subreddit, I would say.
Okay. What I was thinking is like, these games are, I would say, without trying to be mean, probably one of the easiest to make. So that would in my head mean you have the most competition. So
compared
that's why,
to the other games on this list.
That's why I was like, I think marketing is hard because you have a lot more competition, I think. I think there are a lot more incremental games, and especially bad incremental games, because they are not necessarily art-focused. And for example, lazy Thomas at home, when he doesn't join Bite Me, is like, I'm going to make a game in a weekend, blah, 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 put it online. And that's how you create stupid competition. And that's why I mean, like, it's... A lot of people complain about Steam, where it's like so many games are uploaded, your game gets lost, blah, blah, blah. But Steam is really good at like showing the good ones.
Yeah.
But I don't think that incremental games necessarily, especially on itch, are easy then to stand out. That's my biggest issue with them.
Kind of what you're leaning into as well with the marketing is like, by now, like incremental games started getting bigger in like middle of 2025, I would say. And now a lot of that, like, so you had that first games that come out and people are like, oh, this is very good, like Knorp, Apolog and things like that. And now you have that first wave of developers like, oh, this was very interesting, I'm gonna make my own Nodebuster like. And that wave has paused now. And now we're in that second wave, basically, where more people are aware of the genre and are like, I can do something. I think the problem is that you need to be more now than what you needed to be like half a year ago. I think the bar, like the minimum bar, if you needed to only have like a 6 out of 10 incremental game half a year ago and people would still buy it, I think that bar has gone up to like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10 incremental game, where also maybe...
That's due to competition, huh?
Yeah, because there's just more games, and I think you need to find something at this point that makes you stand out more, whether it is the art style or it is a certain mechanic. I think that is going to be a bigger thing now, and it can't just be simple number go up anymore. It needs to be something more.
Like if we did this tier list like half a year ago, I think it would be a really, really high scoring one. I think it still scores relatively high, but it might have been an S then, but I don't think it's an S anymore.
No. I think what is also good is that it's kind of a game that, like you said, like Lazy Thomas can make it. Or if I wasn't at Bite Me, I was a hobbyist dev, I could also make it, and we would have different levels of complexity. But I think both levels of complexity could kind of work to a certain degree, where even if you're a less great coder, yes, you're going to run into like struggles, but it's not like it's going to be a genre that is simply inaccessible to you, because at the core root, it's just increment numbers. Yes, it's an oversimplification, and how you increment the numbers changes as well. You can do more stuff than me in terms of like pure code stuff. I can maybe do more visual stuff or whatever. We both have like almost equal opportunities in terms of standing out. I think if I were to bet money on this, one somewhat untapped opportunity still is trying to get into the space of 3D incremental games. Because that is something that, from what I can tell, all of this is like 2D pixel art, or it's like 2D hand-drawn art. I think you can do some interesting stuff by maybe moving this to a third dimension. That's maybe something that if you are on the fence, I would consider finding a way to make that work. But I think overall, it's still a very good genre, and I would put it at an A.
Yeah, I was thinking A or B, because the biggest argument I have against it basically is I think it is what Survivor likes were in 2024. Everyone is now playing it and they will get bored of it and it will move on to the next genre. And the biggest gripe I have against it is I don't know how far in the wave we are, but if you're working for 6 months on it now,
you're going to need to already have like a 9 out of 10 game. Basically. That's like, for example, with the Survivor likes, where you had so many Survivor likes, and then that's kind of what we wanted to do with Magical Girl Guardians, and some other developers did that, is a year down the road, there weren't many multiplayer Survivor likes yet. And that's when, okay, if you wanted to stand out, you needed like more of a bit of a multiplayer, or you needed to bring a fresh approach like Megapunk did. But then the traditional approach of a Survivor like worked less at that point. I think here as well, especially if you're looking at this now in the year 2026, make sure that there is something interesting that hasn't really been done before yet, I would say.
Yeah. So that's my biggest gripe with the genre.
Yeah.
So A or B is fine for me.
I think we're gonna put it at an A.
Or A- to annoy people.
Let's just start with a regular A.
All right.
Okay, that brings us to the next genre, which is PSX Horror slop. We're using slop here.
You already say slop, so
I think it's just a fun word at this point. It has lost all meaning to me because people throw it around so much. It's like we're going to talk about friend slop later as well, where this is basically you open itch.io and you disable all of the hentai games and the adult games, and then all that's left is... Also, there's a lot of incremental games. You also get rid of the incremental games. All that's left then is like the very lo-fi PSX style horror games. Like, for example, a bunch of the stuff that like Critical Reflex brings out, like Kiosk and Boba Tea Shop and games like that. Yeah. Very on-purpose lo-fi to kind of help with foster development as well. Why are you smiling?
I was thinking like this is the perfect genre for someone who uses an inferior engine like Godot.
I mean, it is.
A lot of people are already commenting now.
It is, I would say, a genre that you do see a lot of Godot developers for as well.
Coincidence? Yeah. I think not.
I think it's also, you're laughing, but it's like interesting as well of like how in PSX assets, there's almost nothing on the Unity asset store, for example. You need to get all of them from itch.io basically as just like raw FBX files to put in your engine, where it is more Godot focused, for better or worse.
The biggest issue I have with this genre is I think you're in a very niche market.
I don't think it's niche. I think there's a giant demand for it.
I mean, there's a demand for it, sure. But what I mean is you'll never reach mainstream. I think almost any other genre on the list can reach mainstream. I don't think this can.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, like, you look at the PSX graphics and you think like, oh, it's nice. It reminds you of my past, whatever, because you're an old boomer. That's fine. But I think a lot of people just want the most realistic stuff. Like, we don't want to acknowledge it often as indies, but Call of Duty, FIFA, there's a reason those games work. And I don't think it's the artistic, poo-poo looking graphics of the PSX. And I think that's a reason a lot of people won't play it, because I think it's very easy for a PSX style game to look cheap, in my opinion. And of course, if you execute it well, you can do it, I think. But I don't think it's I don't think this is a very high scorer. Like, I would do a lot of other genres before I would do this.
So, I've played around with PSX myself a little bit because I was just interested. I think the best way I can describe it, that kind of comes down to what you do as well and why we didn't end up making PSX, is that I think to a certain degree, especially if you're using assets, PSX, like high poly, have the same degree of difficulty if you're doing horror, because you're throwing together assets in both cases anyway, and you're working on the experience and the vibes and like the jump scares. The problem is just if you look at it from a commercial perspective, you can have the exact same game. We do this sometimes when we prototype, where we prototype different art styles with the same mechanic. Yeah. The exact same game, if you make it in PSX style and in like high poly realistic, one of them is gonna sell for $2. Like, you can ask $2 more basically for the realistic looking game than for the PSX style. Yep. Saying that PSX devalues your game may sound a bit harsh, but I think PSX does lower the perceived value someone will have of your game.
That's what I said, like, where a lot of PSX games just look cheap.
It's also like, on purpose to kind of let your brain fill in the void. I don't know if it's like looks cheap, but it's just, it looks less polished. You can't have a polished looking PSX game almost to a certain degree, because it needs to be empty on purpose.
Yeah, I think these are the kind of games people make who want to make a game and not necessarily want to earn money from it.
Yeah, and I think that it's a very good genre for that. If you want to make a game, you can get started very quickly. You can also, even if you want to learn to do modeling yourself, it's a million times easier to make PSX like boxes and then just learn how to texture it and crunch down the textures than it is to actually make high poly assets yourself, where that is a completely different ballpark. You can make more custom stuff yourself basically with PSX. I want to kind of put it in a B tier because it's still super good if you want to make something quick, but on the other hand, getting something commercial out of it is less. There is still a demand for it as well, because that's one benefit that also we didn't really touch upon with the short scope incremental games. Is like a lot of the itch.io games are like 15 to 50, 60 minutes long, and it's, you play it one time. There's no replayability for it, which means that you can like bust through 8 of these like PSX horror games on itch.io in a single evening almost, which means that there is a pretty big demand for it. think also in terms of general like marketing and like selling, a horror game is also way harder than an incremental game. Yeah, actually,
I think C is too high. I was thinking D or maybe even E, but
no way E.
Then let's go for D.
Even D feels kind of low. I think the thing is, I think you can still do interesting stuff with PSX as well.
True, but there's just a lot more genres on the list that I think can do a lot better. And in the end, the goal of the tier list, in my opinion, is not just to say like this is S, A, whatever, but also to like give a comparison where the genre stands in relation to others.
Yeah,
that's why I think if you put it C, and it's like all the other genres are going to be C or higher. Maybe not all, but like a lot of genres are going to C or higher.
It pains me in my heart. I kind of still, it's a C in my heart, but I'll put it on D tier.
Yeah,
for you.
And if you're using Godot, it's E tier.
No, I think if you're using Godot, it's one of the only genres you can make in Godot.
Yeah, true.
That's
also, we're not Godot haters. Just so you know, a lot of people just get tilted.
Okay.
Probably like you.
So staying in the horror setting, this is a genre that we have, you love it, a lot of experience with, I would say, at this point, and it is Anomaly Horror game. What is it? I mean, it's games like Exit 8, Shinkansen Zero, or what we've done, Kyoto Anomaly, Pripyat Zero. At the end of the day, it's just a spot the difference point-and-click adventure game wrapped in a spooky jacket, basically. Yep. Where you have an environment, and you have to simply see, is there something wrong? Yes or no? And then usually the things that's wrong is kind of like scary. And then you have a binary choice of go left, go right. You do it a bunch of times in a row and you win the game. These are generally shorter scoped experiences as well, of like, they take between, if you have a good run, like 15 minutes to beat, or up to like, I think for Kyoto Anomaly, if you do the 100% completion, it's like 2.5 hours, because we have multiple endings and things like that. It's an Anomaly game. Yeah. You famously...
I'm not the biggest fan of it, because there's... What I don't like about this genre, I always start with this, I seem like I don't like anything, is I think there's a limited amount of freedom you have in the game, because you usually have a specific game flow.
Yeah.
Like if you, for example...
Yeah, you always have the binary choice. You always need to have something that's looping.
So I don't like that. And I also think this is a genre with very limited explosion factor, or whatever you want to call it. While a lot of other games, even the PSX Horror, to some extent, while...
I think, PSX can out-earn Anomaly games relatively easily still, even.
Yeah, so that's like, I think we make it because it's like extending our studio's life cycle mostly. But I don't think you can have like a Stardew Valley-like kind of success ever out of an Anomaly game.
But I think what makes this a good genre almost is that out of all of the genres on this list, I think this is the only one that you can objectively make a moderately decent version of in a week.
That's true.
I think the development cycle can be nutty quick, because it is basically a formula almost to a certain degree that you can follow.
Yeah.
There's not that much mechanical complexity in it. And it is more, once again, like going to the horror, it's like the vibes and things like that. Whereas if you're doing like general PSX style horror, you have more environment work, you have more maybe mechanics and things like that. Whereas here, mechanics are extremely limited. You just need to have a way to do the looping basically of your world, and then those choices, and that's it. You can set up a basic Anomaly game in like a day, and then it is just about filling in it with interesting anomalies, interesting level, and those things. Which is why I think it is also, even though maybe not a commercially great success, I think it is a very good genre that I would almost say of like, if it's your first game you're ever gonna make, making an Anomaly game could be one of the better choices, because it's almost safeguarded to a certain degree. What used to be the 2D platformer is now the 3D Anomaly game, almost. In like, it's a very limited set of mechanics you can do. You learn the basics of a first-person controller and like stuff like that. And then you work a little bit more on the design part of what you want to do with your game.
I mean, I agree to some extent. I think in general, I would also rate this higher as PSX, actually. Just because I think, like you said, you have like a very, very short dev cycle.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that the games are going to be good, nor that they're going to make a lot of money. I think I would put it similarly, honestly.
I was thinking like C.
I feel like no way you can put this at C and then put general PSX at D.
Really?
Yeah, I think this is like a D or a D- even, just because how hard it is to broach $1,000 for this, for example, in revenue with these styles of games. You need to, like with Kyoto Anomaly, we did a lot of stuff extra basically. We added a bonus side loop. We added it was a very high quality game, I would say. We had voice acting, we had 5 endings, we had a lot of replayability value, a bunch of uniquer anomalies. Not to toot my own horn, but I think that is already an above average Anomaly game. And even that only made around $5,000 gross.
Okay.
So I think if you make these games, you should make them just for the love of the game and learning your engine.
Okay. Then let's put it just in D.
Okay, let's put it in
the same.
Yeah. Okay.
So, if you're still watching, or if you fell asleep and didn't watch the first part where you're skipping, so far only make incremental games.
Maybe it's gonna change because now we come to everyone's dream. We talked about making a smaller scoped Skyrim earlier. That is it's a dream almost of the tiny open world games. So everyone knows about the game. I feel a short hike. They've all seen the GDC talk. The guy did as well about how he made a tiny open world. There's a bunch of other similar style games that sometimes have more of the lo-fi graphics as well. Easy Delivery Co. is one that came out more recently, where you have this semi-open world almost that you can kind of do whatever you want in, but it is still very much contained in comparison to, I don't know, other genres, real open worlds. It is a bit more of a niche one. You see this maybe a little bit less, the tiny open worlds or the small scale open worlds, but maybe that's a benefit. Mm-hmm. Now you're gonna start with what I don't like about this genre is...
No, I don't think I'm gonna start like that this time. I think what I like about this genre, because we don't really put an actual genre on it, because it's just a small scoped open world, you have a ton of freedom.
Yeah, it can also be is it more narrative based, for example? Is it more of a collectathon?
Yeah, to some extent, you can combine any other genre in this list with this genre and get a genre in this genre, basically. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a good explanation, but basically...
this gives you more freedom?
Yeah, I think it's a very flexible genre, because it's just almost a mechanic. Mm-hmm. Where it's a small open world, I think describes the scope, which is good. And I also think it's good that you have the freedom. What I don't like about it is that you have the freedom.
Yeah, I think this is...
So it's a benefit, and it's cutting a two-blade, what do you call it? Double-edged sword.
Yeah,
that's
a game like an incremental game, for example, focuses...
You have boundaries.
Yeah, but what you learn from that, or what your core focus is going to be, is going to be more mechanics. Yeah. Whereas in a horror game, a PSX style game, it's more going to be about environment building and creating a game feel, basically. I think with a small open world, the kind of major muscle you're going to be having to flex is actual game design, for lack of a better word, where maybe the movement mechanic is actually pretty simple, but what is going to be more of a challenge is making it a meaningful open world versus, it's just a world that you kind of get railroaded anyway, because you have these linear fetch quests, and instead you have to worry more about the dynamicism of, I can decide to go there or there, and it's not going to break the entire game, basically. Where I think also, if we were to make this game, we would probably lean into, turns out that we're just going to railroad you probably, because it's just game design wise so much more of a struggle.
Yeah, but then you're already getting back to the shitty version of Skyrim, because Skyrim is massive scale.
Yeah.
And you can run in any direction because the entire world scales with you, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's a hard genre to rate, I think.
You need more skill to begin with it, but I think this also has a way bigger ceiling of,
for sure,
both what you can ask for the game in terms of revenue, interest people can have in it.
Yeah,
I think it is, if you can make a small scale open world and actually make it, it has way more potential than...
Yeah, the Anomaly game is a lot easier to make, but you will hit your ceiling a lot quicker.
I think here you can have a very high ceiling, depending on the vibes and the kind of story you want to tell in your game. I think that makes it better. Is it good for a first game if you also treat small scoped games like beginner game? Not at all. This is a small scoped game where you've already released games before, I would say, 100%. Yeah.
Do you think we would be ready for this?
Maybe if we had a good idea.
Maybe.
But I don't have a good idea.
Yeah, you usually don't have good ideas. So.
I would still want to put it at a C tier.
Yeah, I was also thinking, I definitely
because there is such a big upside, basically.
Yeah, I was definitely thinking it should be above the others, the D tier where the PSX and the Anomaly games are. I don't think it's better than incremental, so it would be B or C. And
I think incremental is a fierce contender that we put up there at the very start.
Yeah,
but hey, maybe keep watching. We can. Something is gonna beat it.
Yeah, who knows?
So speaking
and the
of
genres are only getting more and more epic over the time. That's what YouTubers do, right?
that's the mysteries. Let's add an explosion behind you or whatever.
I mean, you have to do that, you know?
Yeah, we're not doing that. I've decided.
Imagination.
Speaking of beating, let's get to simulators.
You want to make a beating simulator?
There's simulators for everything, so I wouldn't be surprised that it already exists, basically.
True.
These are, your playway bread and butter. But, stuff like, I guess Schedule 1 is also a simulator, but I don't really count that. I count it more of the sloppy simulators where, you run an anime waifu store, or you run the trading card shop, TCG shop simulator. I think TCG Shop Simulator. It's a weird name.
Whatever.
Or a supermarket simulator. All of those stuff where you take a real life job basically, or like I think there's also like a storage hunter or barn restorer and
just something from real life.
Everything basically you can imagine, and then you turn it into a simulator, and it's like 3D, almost intentionally shitty gameplay loops.
I don't think they do it intentionally, dude.
I don't know. They are very janky, at least. True. I don't know if it's intentional or not. I think the problem is that it's kind of at the end of its life cycle, this genre.
You think so?
Yeah, but I also have an interesting...
So maid cafe simulators go to flop?
I don't know. We're doing the multiplayer, which it's kind of like... What did we talk about? With the incrementals or something?
Yeah,
like
the execution level.
Yeah, the execution level has gotten a lot higher at this point, where you can't just fart out a simulator in 2 weeks anymore. Mm-hmm. I think a funny comparison that I did here is that a simulator game is kind of like a 3D incremental game, because both of the gameplay loops, you're making more money. You have a skill tree usually where you unlock like more upgrades for your shop, and it's a very basic gameplay loop of people come in, you sell them stuff, you restock, you buy more stuff, and things like that. Basically, it's more of a numbers-based game than you may think. I think is what it comes down to. Even though it's a simulator, I think it's less about like your engine-specific stuff, and it's like more of a lot of like behind-the-scenes code, basically, of your inventory, your pricing, your AI, your stuff like that, basically.
So what I don't like about this genre, I like that you have a lot of freedom. I don't like that you have a lot of freedom, as usual. I think a lot of real-life mechanics, well, I call mechanics, but it's not a real term, of course, but like real-life jobs or whatever, they have a lot of depth, and so you need to know the job terms, whatever you want to call it.
I think the easy ones have also been taken and have been done to the best level already.
Yeah, you're not going to make a competitor to Power Wash Simulator, probably.
Yeah, or like, I'm gonna run another simple store and I buy stuff. I think
you need a good idea, and you need. I think it's easy to get lost in this genre, where you go outside of
scope creep, basically.
Outside of the small scope. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest risk I see with this genre. I think usually the art is pretty easy to do, because usually what they do is just they take PBR assets and just bash it together, basically. So I think that's fine. It's just, I don't like how you call the infinite scope, whatever.
You can keep adding stuff.
I don't like that. I also, like you said, the genre has been. I think it still
has a demand. I think.
It still has demand, but it's less hot than it was half a year or a year ago.
I think like a year, 2 years ago at this point. Yeah.
So that's also a risk. Even saying all that, I think the genre is still solid.
Yeah, I think you need to not be a perfectionist if you want to get started on this genre. I think this is going to be, if you are like an absolute perfectionist, an incremental game will be better.
So why are we letting William make it then?
We'll figure it out. I think an incremental game will reward you more for having that perfectionistic vision and getting ultimate game feel and ultimate progression and hyper balanced stuff than a simulator game, which is almost more, slop for the slop bowl of like, let's play this for a few nights and then move on, where it maybe gets less appreciated, like all of the in-depth stuff that you would do later on in the game. I would put this in an E tier.
You would? Ooh, I don't think I would put it below the...
Because I think it is something that is, out of these games, extremely risky to overscope.
True, I think it's risky, but it still has a way higher ceiling than Anomaly games.
No, it's true, but
like if you were coming to me and you were like,
but the amount of work required is also
but if you say
higher.
I will make you 3 Anomaly games or 1 simulator game, I think there's a decent shot that 1 simulator game outsells the 3 Anomaly games.
Yeah,
That's why I don't want to put it lower than that. Because, of course, okay, sure, you have a larger scope, but you also... The amount of scope it increases, I don't know if it's worth the revenue loss. Yeah.
Yeah. So where would you put it?
I would either put it in D plus or C minus, whatever it's called. Or, yeah, because...
I can do with D plus.
Yeah, something like that. Because it's like, I don't think it's the best genre at all, but I do think that just because of the potential, it's less than it was maybe a year or 2 years, whatever ago. But I still think it has a lot more potential than, for example, Anomaly games.
I think you need to stand out still. I
True.
think that's gonna be a big issue because everything has a simulator at this point.
Yeah.
Even like Maid Cafe simulator at this point. There's 2 or 3 other Maid Cafe simulators on Steam that like had their store page go live since we started developing on that game as well. And they're still a bit different, but still it's like anything you can imagine basically will have a simulator at this point. You have like bum simulator, you have recycling center. Yeah, like homeless person.
Oh, I thought you meant booty.
No,
I mean,
I think those are also existing already. So
you can be a butt.
kind of staying in maybe simulator styles, but pulling it a bit back, camera-wise at least, is small-scoped management games. So a game like a Minami Lane or a Tiny Bookshop and things like that, where it is an actual management game more, but it's once again hyper-focused on just one thing. Minami Lane, you're not building an entire city, you're doing one street with some shops, basically. Where once again, it's going on that thing of like, you're not doing like the Skyrim everything, but just a little bit, but you're taking just one thing and doing more of that single specific thing.
I like this.
Would you have an idea for a small scoped management game? Because I think this has a similar problem to the management game, the simulator game, of it's like, where do you draw the line between small scoped and just it's a management game? And when should you even on purpose be like, I'm going to make a small scope management game versus a big scope management game? Because maybe your audience is going to be like, yeah, but I wanted this.
I wanted more depth.
I wanted way more depth indeed.
Yeah, okay, sure, that's an issue. But I do like the idea behind it, is what I mean. I don't have concrete ideas. I also think it's hard to do.
I once, when I was on a flight to Japan, because it's 14 hours of pain and misery, I wrote down a game design document for a small scoped cozy management game where you just run a matcha store, for example. It's basically everything that like the dude is making. Like Dude is the name of the developer of Minami Lane as well, of like those small scope games. Also like Kabuto Park, where you manage beetles to fight each other. I think you almost have to lean into a cozy aspect with this genre.
Oh, I agree.
Because
otherwise you get the wrong audience. People who play the typical 4X games or hyper management games or whatever,
they don't want cozy. Whereas I think if you treat it more as like, oh, it's a cozy bite-sized management game, and you almost get the filthy casuals of management games who don't want to do the still hours of, I'm gonna play just one more round and then 4 hours has passed. It's also like, the art style communicates that vision of the game as well.
Yeah, I definitely think this needs to be cozy. If you have a good idea, I think this is a really good genre. I think it's hard. I don't have an idea. I don't have a specific idea in mind that I would think this could be a good thing to execute on. While I think in other genres, it's, except PSX maybe, easier to get a good idea. Like, even for a simulator game.
Yeah, you just go outside.
Yeah, you just go outside, look around, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. Okay,
Pigeon shitting simulator. Let's go. I think it is, looking at like the tier list, I think it's better still though than a small open world game.
Oh, I agree, because okay, the biggest issue is maybe the ID and where you draw the line, sure. But once again, I think there's a big upside.
Once you have the idea, I think there is less risk than in a small open world. Because once again, you're taking a little bit less of a game design part and more of just the mechanics. And mechanically or like programmatically, it's an easier to solve problem than a game design problem.
Yeah, I agree. I think I also would feel bad if it was lower, to be honest, because I guess it's personal bias, whatever you want to call it. But I think in general, management games, I mean, Steam just eats that shit up.
Yeah, it is the best genre basically, and even if you make it like cozy, maybe you don't get the hardcore German guys, but you still get a big audience in that regard. I would do C+.
I was thinking B.
You were thinking B? I can put it in B as well.
Wow, I'm so generous today. And you're also generous by giving me what I want. because I usually go. Oh no, I put
we
something
always
slower.
do like this bartering of like, no, it's an A, no, it's a D, and then we kind of go to the middle,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, you've been pretty lenient today. Good job.
Well, maybe it's gonna change now because we get to your favorite genre, and it's also the genre that Bite Me Games has had the most success with, and that is streamer bait style rage games like Peak, Unicycle Pizza Time, a bunch of other ones like Carry the Gloss and whatever, where it's trademarked by usually multiplayer, I would say. Whilst technically not needed, it is a very strong recommended to make a multiplayer rage game. Where, yeah, it like doesn't have to be rage specifically, but still, you know, interactions with the boys.
Yeah,
is the best way to describe it.
what I like about this genre,
Yeah, you're
I
the
think
expert.
it's probably the easiest to market
Yeah,
because
yeah.
streamers play it because it's good content.
Yeah, if it's multiplayer,
If it's
especially.
if it's multiplayer,
If it's
especially.
multiplayer, it's like even now with Unicycle Pizza Time, it just keeps kickstarting itself because
Yeah.
we're over a year after release now, and then during the winter sale, some streamers picked it up or something, then they made content about it, and then other streamers look at those streamers and they pick it up as well, and it kind of like I did nothing and suddenly our sales went up again.
Yeah.
Basically.
So that's what I really love about the genre. What I don't like is what makes good content does not always make a good game. What I mean with that is a lot of people, for example, watch Unicycle Pizza Time because they think it's funny how people react to it, because they get frustrated.
But they have zero
rage.
desire to play the game themselves.
Yeah. While, for example, if you see another game, I think it's more inviting because the genre kind of depends on rage feelings.
Yeah,
and a lot of people don't want
to. Yeah, who wants to just spend their evening screaming? Not that many people for the most part.
Yeah, so that's like the biggest upside is the marketing. The biggest downside is you get, I think, a lot of reach. You get a lot of eyeballs. But I think the conversion is...
Yeah, or making a game that people want to play themselves.
Also.
Once again, with multiplayer, you have the benefit of like, you don't play to rage alone, but you call up your homies and like, yo, I saw this game. It looked really interesting. You want to play it with me? And you see them rage as well. Especially if it's a single player rage game. I think we saw this with Baby Steps, where they very much overstepped almost with what you can do with the genre. I don't know if you know the game.
Yeah, I know. The big booty.
Yeah, the big booty single player only game. I think then...
Yeah, for example, I watched a playthrough. I thought it was really funny.
But
And I was like,
zero desire.
I don't want to play this game. I think it's funny. Funny story, all those things. Yay. But I saw it. Well, for example... I'm going to the extreme other end. When I saw Clair Obscur, like, you know, Game of the Year or whatever,
You were like, I want to
I was like, holy shit, this looks insane. I want to experience this for myself.
Yeah.
While I think a lot of other genres are more inviting. That's the...
I think maybe to describe this also is that I'm just going to keep assuming from now on that we're talking about multiplayer streamer bait, because I think in
I
good
don't think
conscience,
you should do it.
it's easy to make a single player streamer bait game, but I think it's just something that you shouldn't do. Your floor of minimum earnings is going to basically almost be the ceiling of an Anomaly game. And maybe the ceiling isn't as high as certain other genres like your simulator games, but I think you have a higher amount of guaranteed revenue, almost, if you can come up with a multiplayer idea that is actually interesting.
Yeah, just because you get so many eyeballs on it.
Yeah, because the marketing helps and you get that almost like organic reach as well of it being multiplayer. So you get that chain reaction of one person sees it and they go and ask their friends to play it, and it goes that way. And I mean, like, of course, Peak blew up, to give an example. I don't think you should expect Peak numbers, but I think even a moderately bad performing or like a moderately almost uninteresting multiplayer game can still get a good amount of revenue and reach, basically.
Yeah, I agree.
And once again, small scope games, very easy. Look at, or like very doable. Like if you look at like Paddle, that first, like the demo was made in, I think, a month. But we did a video with him. You can watch it if you're interested. And then he spent like a few more months on development. But I think it was all in all like 6 months until release. And then now, of course, because the game has made like $200,000, $300,000, he can just keep working on it and like doing like more updates and whatever. But I think that is the most thing of like, you just need something fun and something that has an immediate visual hook, and you're golden, basically.
Yeah, that's right. UPT, for example, also did well.
Immediate visual hook, and go from there. Where do we put this?
B-?
Why is this not an A?
Because I think the conversion is bad. That's my biggest gripe against it.
But I think it's way easier to make.
That's true.
Like you can can make 3 streamer bait games in the time you make one incremental game almost.
Yeah, maybe not that much, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
And I think it's easier to stand out between other streamer bait
true.
games than it is between other incremental games.
That's also true.
Because streamer bait is way more normie core than
true.
incremental.
Yeah, you have a larger audience.
Because you're not gonna see a Queso or a Kaisenat play Tower Wizard.
No.
There's no shot.
Yeah, but you see him play.
You will see him play Chain Together. He could play a Unicycle Pizza Time, for example.
Yeah.
Like he would maybe do that.
It's normie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a good argument. I can live with an A then.
Let's go for A. Next up, we get to a bit more of a cozy genre again. I call these environment builders. I don't know what's the correct term for them, basically, but it's games like Unpacking, Make Room, Tiny Glade, where there is no, also Summer House, there's no real goal apart from just making something pretty and kind of relaxing, almost to a certain degree, where, I don't know how you describe this gameplay loop. Just build stuff?
Just make something pretty. I mean, just insert some B-roll of Tiny Glade or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, does Tiny Glade have like quests or like goals? I think it's literally just build stuff and look at the sheep.
Yeah, I don't know either actually, but I know it looks pretty, and I think that's the biggest thing you need to be good at when you make this kind of genre.
Yeah, so immediately you as a, if you were doing this as a hobby project, forget about it.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to start this because, like, for example, when I first saw Tiny Glade, it was like a GIF on somewhere, I don't
Twitter
remember.
Or something, yeah.
And it was like, I looked at it and it's like, damn, this is nice. This is pretty looking. Like, okay, it's maybe not my genre or whatever, but it was like, damn.
Yeah. Also, like a game like Make Room. Kenny, the asset guy.
Yeah.
He made that because, he can make so many assets in like his own style, and I think then yes, you can make this style. There's also so many room decorators. I've realized at this point that's like very, very similar. Where you're almost like, is this different games? I think this is a game that also, once again, in terms of mechanics, is limited, but in terms of like the sheer amount of assets you need, basically, makes it.
Yeah, that's why this is a modder game, not a programmer game. It's like an artist game.
Yeah.
And like when we said, for example, with the idlers, the incremental, where it's like a programmer could make this, an artist could make this. It's like, you have to be really, really good at art.
Yeah. You need to be a 9 out of 10 artist or a 10 out of 10 artist. If you're middling at art...
Yeah, if you want to do this to learn art, forget about it. You will flop. I think...
E.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Because I think the upside is also limited. The amount of sheer time required for it is very high.
Yeah. I'm also not the biggest fan of this.
Okay, then I have spoken. Watch all the comments erupt now. That brings us to our our penultimate genre, which is puzzle platformers.
Yay. 2D puzzle platformers, I assume?
Yeah. In this case, I just gave the example of Mind Over Magnet. I'm actually not sure how long it took to make Mind Over Magnet, but to a certain degree, it is still like you can make a platformer, even if it's a very basic one, relatively quickly, because similar to an Anomaly game like we talked about, you have a clear set of constraints in terms of what you need mechanically, basically, and you expand upon that. So in that regards, it's a good genre if you want to make something small scoped.
Yeah.
Is it a small scoped game you put on Steam or make with the intention of making it commercial? That's a different story.
Yeah, so what I think you need here is a unique mechanic. So Mind Over Magnet already had something unique to it because it has its own mechanic with the magnets, basically. So I think that's good. But I also think if you make this game, like, for example, Lazy Thomas made the exact game, and it's not called Mark Brown.
Yeah.
The game would do a lot less well, because I don't think there's that big of an audience that still play this. Okay, there's like the old school people. There are people who are very vocal about this, but this is not a good selling genre anymore. Maybe
if you get it on Switch, it's a bit better, but yeah, especially if you're aiming at Steam.
Yeah, I'm usually looking at Steam because that's our primary market.
Absolutely, but like, is it something you can make small scoped?
True.
100%. Yeah. Is it something you should make? I think this is very much a no.
Yeah. Years ago, we put like a platformer in S tier because you could learn from it. That's still true. It's not S tier. That's not true. That part is not true. But you can still learn from it, and I think it's good to learn. I think it's good to experiment or like even work on some game design almost where you can like see if certain mechanics work because it's easy to implement in 2D and all those things.
Like add like your loot chests and things like that. Like it's very a decoupled game basically.
Yeah.
But I think it's an F at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think we said the good things that are to be said about it, but I don't.
If you're watching Bite Me Games and you're watching this video, then probably this video is gonna be an F because we try to not just be like, oh, my art basically, but go a bit deeper than that. And then going into art brings us to the last genre, another genre that kind of started popping up in 2025, and that is the desktop idlers. We have once again some viewer games like Ropuka's Idle Island.
My virtual friend.
Moczan, my virtual friend indeed. I think Rusty's retirement kind of kicked it off back in 2024, but 2025 was the year where we really saw an explosion. 2025 also had like the Idler Fest, for example, to really showcase it, where it's basically most of the time an idle game, but it doesn't take up your full screen. It only takes a bottom of the bar, or it's like birds flying around on your window or whatever. It's basically a game that you have running permanently in like a smaller part of your full screen while you still do other stuff. It's the best way I can describe it.
What I love about this genre is it's very stat rewarding. It's, I don't know how to call it, because the game is always running. So
you mean like it's very good to get concurrent users and long play times basically.
Yeah, so on Steam you have like the stats where you go to SteamDB or whatever, where you see how many people played it in the past 24 hours, all those things. I'm not sure what it does, to be honest, because I don't think anybody does know what the Steam algorithm looks at exactly.
On like rankings for like the Steam Next Fest, for example, it has I think Steam Next Fest has like a ranking for like most played. Desktop Idlers will slay there because that one is based on concurrent users. Also, in case of demos, I think Trending Free is based on concurrent users. New and Trending, I don't think it's 100% only that, but Trending Free, for example, is also based on just concurrent users.
Yeah, so that's what I mean, like it's a stat. It's a stat pattern or whatever you want to call it. And I think that's really good to stand out, to get more organic visibility, basically. Yeah. I also think it's pretty fun because you can make a lot of different kind of games in the genre. So that's what I also like. What I don't like is, in the end, there is like almost every genre. I think a desktop idler is almost a niche. That's still a very much smaller. Also, I think something else is like you can only play one desktop idler at the same time. No, you can't.
No, but I mean like I'm not gonna be running Ropuka's Idle Island and my virtual friend, and like you become like those Bonzi buddy infested malware PCs. I feel like, especially because most of them use like the bottom of the screen. I think it's still more of a thing of like you buy one and then you play it for 3-4 weeks and you're not gonna really think about anything else. This is what I think basically. I think what I do like about this is that by like reducing your screen size, like basically your game takes up 1/4 of your screen, almost automatically your scope also goes down to 1/4 because you have less space to work with. So you're going to be less tempted to fill up everything basically and to go as deep, I would say.
Yeah, maybe that's true. I'm not sure about that.
I think it gives you more of a like not a guardrail that you're not aware of, that you're going to be automatically inclined to go less crazy into the scope because it is just a desktop game at the end of the day.
I think this is a genre that if you know how to tackle it, not from a technical perspective, but like how to put it in the market, if you have a vision there, it can really do well. I like it. Like I for sure would love to experiment with this genre.
I think maybe one more thing also, like art style, if you're not a 2D artist, I think it gets harder. Like I think like because the point of these desktop idlers, you want them to be very CPU unintensive, resource unintensive, because you're doing other stuff. You don't want to have something that just makes your PC blow 24/7. So 3D desktop idlers is going to be harder, I would say. Like it exists, of course, but most of the
cat cafe.
But most of the ones that you see are going to be more 2D pixel art or like something in that style focused. I think once again, this is more of a cozy genre almost. So it has specific art style requirements as well. Like even like desktop cat cafe and whatever, you're still working with low poly stylized. I don't think anyone is making a high poly PBR desktop idler game anytime soon, because it's just it screams against everything that you want from a desktop idler, which is very low CPU and GPU intensive.
Yeah. So where would you rank it then?
I would put it at like a C or a D, I would say. I feel like a C may be slightly too high, but a D feels a bit too low. So you know what I'm gonna see. I would put it...
But okay, do we put it slightly above or below the simulator?
I would put it at the same level.
Okay, so the same as simulator.
I think you can live with that. Because I think it...
Put it like 1 millimeter higher.
1 millimeter higher. it's like it's building a staircase. Guys, we make this is rage bait in video form. Please leave a comment down below how much you hate how we do our tier lists. It boosts engagement. So yeah, I think looking now back at the full tier list, do you think now that we've tier listed anything, there's anything out of place that you would be like, I would put this a little bit higher, a little bit lower? I feel like for the most part, I still feel like, you did the PSX horror game a little bit dirty.
No, I think it deserves to be there.
I think it should have been.
I think I don't dislike this tier list. I think it's all right.
I think it has no major things. Like I think maybe some people could even make a case that like the Anomaly game deserves to be a little bit lower than D, just like tiny bit. Maybe.
Is this more rage bait or?
No, I think this is just more realistic. I still think that PSX Horror is better than Anomaly Horror at the end of the day.
I'm not going to argue about it.
That's just a theory.
Yeah. A bite me theory.
Yeah. So anyways, let us know what games and genres we missed, because at some point we're 100% going to be doing a part 2. I can feel the comments screaming at me. You forgot about roguelike deck builders or something else.
Yeah.
Like Balletro likes rogue, like the slot machine games. Like
also a lot of comments on people saying, I'm working on a 2D puzzle platform. What do you mean it's F tier? It's the best thing ever.
I think there's a pretty high amount of developers who are working on incremental games in our audience. Because we are so programmer focused in the end of the day.
So they will be happy, I guess.
So you'll be happy. You just need to ship it in less than 2 years.
Yep.
Good luck.
If you need help with that, we have a Patreon. Martis will give you advice.
But yeah, I think that's all we have to say. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.